Today's video is all about creating and running one-shots. I've been running quite a few recently as the DM for my IRL game works on call once a month, so it's given me a lot of opportunity to explore new ideas and new themes. It's been pretty fun, and I've used it as an opportunity to bring new players to the table. One such player turned around to me and asked me how to run a one-shot. When people normally ask me questions about ttrpg stuff, I usually refer them to this channel, but I fucking realised that I actually don't have any videos on this subject, so I figured today would be a good time to correct that. Before we jump deep into this subject and explore the process of creating and running a one-shot, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The YouTube algorithm is, quite frankly, a little bitch, and it doesn't really promote my videos very well, even the good ones, and partly the reason for this is a lack of engagement on my videos. More engagement usually means more impressions, and more impressions normally means more potential views. So do me a favour if you love our hobby and support the channel. Thank you very much. The term one-shot simply refers to a one-off adventure session where a group of adventurers will take on a challenge and hopefully complete it before the session ends. It's a self-contained adventure with a start, a middle and an end. Creating a one-shot needs to be looked at a lot differently to running a campaign, especially one where you remove the railroads and provide a lot of opportunities to sandbox. For dungeons, I'd recommend the 5-room dungeon method for newer dungeon masters. It's essentially a dungeon with 5 different rooms. If 4 of the rooms take 30 minutes each, and the last room, presumably the boss encounter, takes an hour, you've got yourself a very tasty 3-hour session. The premise of each room varies, but a typical list is as followed: entrance and guardian, puzzle and role-playing challenge, trick or setback, climax, conflict, and last but not least, reward. This gives your one-shot 2 encounters, a puzzle, a couple of traps, and a juicy reward. It's important that our one-shots have a good structure, or at least a path that the party can follow. We need to finish this session on time, so it's important that we don't get sidetracked. The first thing we should really be considering is the theme. What is the premise of the story? What is the central conflict? Have wolves been attacking the herds of the village? Is there a cult of naughty boys trying to resurrect the dead? Figure out your conflict and write it down, as all of our ideas will be sprouting from that. For me, my theme will be exploring a mysterious tropical island. The conflict is the native inhabitants on the island, as well as the harsh weather. Some DMs might want to start the adventure at the docks of the city. For my example, introducing the characters to the homeland and to the port. But fuck that. It's just a waste of time. It doesn't really matter to the narrative whatsoever. When we run a one-shot, we want things to be fast-paced, exciting, fun. We want people to be rolling dice, and we want players to be making choices. Make sure to check out my sponsor for today's video, me! My book, Designing Hex Towns, has gone Electrum on ttrpg, and it's a book full of charts and tables to develop your towns, cities, and regions. It will show you a new way to create your maps and change your view on how settlements work and connect with each other. It's an absolute bargain, sitting at only $3.99, so be kind to yourself and pick it up today. Here is a plan I did for this one-shot. It's not a dungeon, but as you can see, I'm basically following the same method. It's just outdoors rather than indoors. You can see that the store represents the entrance guardian, as it guards the island from ships and explorers. The statue is the puzzle with a possible encounter. Fighting the lizard folk at the temple and saving a crewmate is the trick/climax, because the lizard folk set off the alarm to the rest of the island. The climax itself, realistically, is at the beach, where the party desperately try to fend off the lizard folk and escape back to their ship. And the reward is, the treasure that they found during the adventure and actually managing to survive the adventure. In Shadowdark, survival typically ends up being the reward. The plan is fairly simple, and I don't want to waste time overcomplicating it too much. Sure, there is value in being specific, but I'd rather play it by ear. See how the party progresses. Characters could die early, for example. You know, maybe the party starts to lose at the temple and the lizard folk take a few of them as prisoners. I don't want to over-prepare because I might need to adjust things on the fly. It's worth me letting you guys know that I really do enjoy random encounters and wandering monsters, but neither concept is appropriate really for a one-shot in my humble opinion. For a campaign, it's fantastic and I'd highly recommend it, but for a one-shot, it is just a time sink. Random encounters, whilst they can be fun, they're not going to be as fun as the encounters that you prepare and time and set up in advance. You know, our encounters need to be interesting and deliberate for a one-shot. What do you guys think about random encounters and wandering monsters? Let me know in the comment section below. We want to develop the narrative, you know, build up tension and let our players have fun. So we only really need to focus on those things. The encounters, like I said, need to be interesting. We need to reward some really fun treasure. I usually reward 1 to 3 pre-chosen magical items in a one-shot, and I also let my players roll on the random treasure tables where they search dead monsters or locations where I think potential treasure could be found, and they roll a 4, 5 or 6 on a d6 when searching. I call it the treasure roll check. I'm running Shadow Dark, so you know, treasure equals experience, so this sort of encounter makes sense. I never really used to believe that these sorts of tables, these treasure tables, were actually very good or useful, but I find that since I started playing Shadow Dark more frequently, my players are actually genuinely excited to roll for loot in the off chance that they will roll something useful or just roll a high number in general, which has happened a fair few times in the games that I have ran. I actually did run this one shot for some friends, and here's a picture I took of the Lizard Folk Temple encounter. You know, the party had to act quickly to save the woman who was about to be sacrificed before, you know, the shaman cut her throat, I guess. And obviously I don't really have some very good gear for my IRL games. I have some minis, but I'm trying to build up a collection of miniatures, you know, terrain, all that stuff. And if you guys know any good affordable companies to buy stuff from, you know, let me know. I genuinely would love a sponsor that does miniatures, but I don't have a manager, nor really the effort to seek them out myself. So, you know, I'll just have to wait and see for that. But I'll tell you that all of my players were up from their seats, looking down at the table whilst that fight was going on. It was dramatic. The players didn't know whether their characters would survive or not. And I think that level of excitement, that level of danger, thrill, is really, you know, what I fucking live for in this hobby. And I think in a one-shot, you don't really need to pull your punches. You know, you can be quite mean. You can kill characters. It's better to kill them near the end, obviously, but you can definitely do it. And the main goal from this adventure was to basically be a heist. You know, the party gets onto the island, gets the treasure, and then gets out. The final part of any adventure you do in a one-shot really needs to be that big climax. And it's so important to get that right. You know, I'm a big pro wrestling guy. And from what I've kind of learned from over the years of watching is that the best pay-per-views like SummerSlam and WrestleMania, the best pay-per-views are the ones that have a really strong first match and a really strong last match. So a strong beginning and a strong end. And I think one-shots are just the same. You know, we want drama, we want excitement, and we want lots of dice rolling. If characters die now, it doesn't really spoil the fun because the game is ending soon anyway. In fact, it just makes the experience for all the rest of your players much more exciting, and maybe even for that player who died as well, because it wasn't an easy adventure. It's memorable. Character death can be very memorable, especially in those situations. You know, the party had to claw tooth and nail in order to escape, but somehow they managed it. Thanks for watching today's video. Consider joining my Discord if you'd like to get involved with our community events, and sign up to my Patreon as a 3 or paid member to gain access to charts, tables, and mechanics to level up your games. I'll see you guys next time. or Loki's lair. Until then.